Lesson 9, Modal Verbs Part 2. Welcome to Part 2 of our lesson on modal verbs. Today you'll learn modals for requests, advice, offers, and asking permission. When asking somebody else to do something, we have three options. We can say, "Can you help me with my homework?" "Could you help me with my homework?" Or, "Would you mind helping me with my homework?" The question with can is more informal. The question with could is more formal or polite. And the question with would you mind is extremely polite. The third option, would you mind, is usually used when we are concerned that our request might inconvenience the other person, or we suspect that the other person might say no or have some objection. Also, notice that after can and could, we use the base form of the verb, help. And after would you mind, we use the ing form, helping. Now put it into practice. Imagine you have an assistant who can help you with any task in your professional or personal life. Ask your assistant to do 3 different things for you, using can you, could you, and would you mind. Modal verbs for advice. When asking for advice, we use should. Here are 3 typical ways to do it. You can use a question word plus should. For example, this is a serious problem. What should I do? Where should we go on our vacation? You can also say, should I do A or B? For example, should I go to grad school or just try to get a job? Should I cut my hair or let it grow? Should we buy this or not? You can also say, do you think I should, plus the action. For example, do you think I should tell him how I really feel? It seems like a good job. Do you think I should take it? Now put it into practice. Imagine you are talking with a very intelligent and wise person. Think of 3 situations in your life on which you would like to receive some advice, and ask this person their advice on 3 topics in your life. Use the sentence structures indicated. When giving advice, we can use the word should for giving a strong recommendation, or could for simply suggesting a possibility. For example, if someone tells you, I just moved here and I don't have any friends, what should I do? You can say, well, you could join a club or sports team, or if sports isn't your thing, you could get involved at the local community center. You could also throw a party at your house and invite all your new neighbors. The word could simply suggests possibilities. To give a strong recommendation, use should. For example, if your friend says, I've had a stomachache for the past week. What kind of medicine do you think I should take? You can reply, you should go to the doctor. It might be something serious. That's a strong recommendation, so we use the word should. 2 more expressions used for giving strong advice, which can be used as substitutes for should, are had better and ought to. Ought to is often used to express some sort of duty, moral obligation, or rightness. For example, that was a terrible thing you did. You ought to apologize. Or, he's an adult. He ought to know how to behave by now. The expression had better is used for strong recommendations and warnings. For example, she's not breathing. We'd better call an ambulance quickly. You've had a lot to drink. Give me your car keys. You'd better take a taxi. You can also make a recommendation to yourself. It's raining really hard. I'd better take an umbrella. Here's an example of had better being used for a warning. Hey man, you'd better stay away from my girlfriend. They said they'd meet us here at 6:30. They'd better not be late, otherwise we'll miss the beginning of the show. Now put it into practice. Imagine that 4 people are asking you for advice. Say one sentence to respond to each of their problems, using the modal verbs indicated. Number 1. My job pays well, but it's kind of boring. What should I do? Number 2. My kids don't get along with each other. They're always fighting. Got any ideas? Number 3. I just found out that my best friend's husband is cheating on her. What should I do? Number 4. I have $20,000 of credit card debt and it just keeps going up every month. Modal verbs for offers. We often use would you like to make a polite offer or invitation to another person. For example, would you like something to drink? Would you like to join me for lunch? Would you like me to help you with that project? Would you like is a more polite way of saying do you want, which could be used among friends or in informal contexts. When talking about something that you want, saying I'd like, short for I would like, is a more polite way of saying I want. This is a good way to express your desires in a polite way. Sometimes I want can be a little too direct, especially when what you want involves another person. For example, if you're the boss, you can tell your employee, I'd like you to make this project your top priority. If you're talking to a colleague, you could say, I'd like to reschedule our meeting if that's all right with you. If you're a team leader and you're talking to everybody, you could say, I'd like us to plan ahead and stay organized. Now put it into practice. An exchange student from another country has just arrived at your house. He will be staying with you for several months and he knows nothing about your country. Make him some offers and invitations using would you like. For example, offer him a specific food or drink. Now invite him to go somewhere in your city. Now offer to let him borrow a possession of yours. When asking permission, we have at least 7 different options. Can I leave work early today? Could I leave work early today? May I leave work early today? Do you mind if I leave work early today? Would you mind if I left work early today? Is it okay if I leave work early today? Would it be all right if I left work early today? Asking permission with can is very informal. We usually use this with friends. For example, hey, can I borrow your cell phone for a minute? Asking permission with could is more polite. We can use this with friends or in professional situations. For example, could I have some more coffee, please? Could I use the conference room for my meeting this afternoon? Asking permission with may is also very polite. Nowadays it is less commonly used than could. For example, may I use your bathroom? May I go ahead with this project? Finally, we ask permission with do you mind if I and would you mind if I when we are concerned that our request might inconvenience the other person, or we suspect that the other person might say no or have some objection. For example, if your boss says, "I'd like you to call our supplier today, but you are very, very busy," you could respond with this question: "Actually, would you mind if I called them tomorrow? I already have a number of urgent things to deal with." Or, "Actually, do you mind if I call them tomorrow?" You're asking for permission to delay the task in a polite way. Notice that after would you mind, we use the past form of the verb, called, and after do you mind, we use the base form of the verb, call. The same pattern applies with is it okay and would it be all right. For example, is it okay if I take these textbooks home? I'll return them tomorrow. Or, would it be all right if I took these textbooks home? I'll return them tomorrow. In questions with would, we use the past tense. To respond to requests for permission beginning with can, could, may, is it okay, and would it be all right, you can say yes, sure, or go right ahead. However, to respond yes to the questions beginning with do you mind and would you mind, you can say that's fine or no, not at all. The expression no, not at all means you are giving permission. It means you have no objections. Now put it into practice. Ask a question requesting permission in each of these 4 situations. Number 1. You're at your friend's house and the window is open, but you are cold. Number 2. Your final exam is scheduled for Friday, but you can't come to class on that day. Number 3. You're at a restaurant with a colleague, and the grilled salmon they ordered looks delicious. You want to taste it. Number 4. At work, your computer is broken and you really need to write some emails. You ask your coworker. Let's summarize the modal verbs from today's lesson. To ask someone else to do something, use can you or could you plus the base form of the verb, or would you mind plus the verb in the ing form. To ask for advice, use should. You can say, what should I do? Should I do A or B? Or, do you think I should? To give advice, use should for recommendations, could for possibilities, ought to for doing what is right, and had better for very strong recommendations and warnings. To make polite offers, use would you like, and to express your desires politely, use I'd like rather than I want. To ask permission, you can use can I, which is less formal, could I or may I, do you mind if I, would you mind if I, is it okay if I, or would it be all right if I. With the would questions, use the simple past tense of the verb. With all others, use the base form. Would it be okay if I left early? Or, is it okay if I leave early? You finished Lesson 9. Now take the quiz and do the practice exercises to make sure you know the difference between can, could, may, would, do you mind, and the other phrases you learned in this lesson.